Thank you for listening to the Monthly Movie Marathon podcast.
Yeah, that's
Google
it.
Podcast, Spotify, Apple Podcast. Oppenheimer's in cinema, July 27. We were talking about Insomnia, Memento.
July 20th.
Shit. I got the date wrong. And that ruined my bid because I was going to do the whole episode in reverse.
Yeah, because why?
Because we're talking about Nolan, baby. The savior of cinema. The savior of, well, like, not the savior of cinema. That's Tom Cruise. But like, would he be like a patron saint of cinema?
Well,
would he be?
I would say patron saint because of how much during the pandemic.
True.
He was like, I want this movie in cinema.
That's
and
true.
Obviously that movie we're talking about is Tenet, which he was very much like, no.
It's got to be in the cinema.
And that was like our first, like,
that was one of our first major screenings back.
Couldn't bring a +1.
Couldn't bring a +1.
Had to sit away from, unless they were like, unless you feel comfortable sitting.
Oh, that's true. But we sat next to each other. We were just like,
because we were just like, we've pretty much been hanging out like the entire time, so we're fine.
But bits aside, welcome to the Monthly Movie Marathon.
Right. Yeah,
because if this is your first time tuning in, you're like, what the fuck is that cold open?
And then that cold open will make a lot of sense when you realize one of the movies that we're talking about.
Very, very much so. But I am Nick Labaro, critic at NovaStream Network. Who are you? Who the fuck are you?
I'm Peter Gray.
I don't remember you walking into this room.
Oh my God.
How good's this?
Hey, right?
We got Nolan bits left and right, baby. Yeah. I've got a whole book of Nolan jokes. But no, sorry, before I rudely interrupted. Who the fuck are you?
Who the fuck am I? I'm Peter Gray. That's who the fuck I am.
Don't forget it, baby.
Rotten Tomatoes certified movie
You are
man.
indeed. I haven't called you that in a long time.
And I'm going to bring it back. Why? Because it's one thing that I can remember.
I was going to say, you're taking it back. But it's not like it's an insult. It's not derogatory.
No, not at all.
Insult. He's like, but I'm taking it back for myself.
I'm like, damn it. But we are here.
We are.
Discussing, if you don't know, a little man known by the name of Christopher Nolan.
I don't know if he'll appreciate being called a little man, but...
No, I'm doing one of those things where it's like ironic. Like, you know. Wow, this is going.
I've now watched 3 Nolan films in a row this week. I don't know what irony is. I take cinema so fucking seriously. No mobile phones on sets. No computer-generated graphics happening right here.
Apparently.
Well, we will talk about that today because there is a bit of discourse about that at the moment. But yes, there is a movie coming out.
Yes, so we're talking about Christopher Nolan. The movie coming out July 20th.
July 20th, not July 27th because...
Oppenheimer.
It is. I was getting confused about another movie. I just finished a review for a movie that is coming out July 27th.
I will forgive you for that.
Because it is a great movie.
It is amazing.
We will talk about it right now. Talk to Me is the best movie of the year for me so far. Australian duo, Danny and Michael Philippou, horror film. We watched it for the second time last night and actually in a cinema.
In a cinema with an audience who were receptive to it.
They liked it a lot.
But we saw it 6 months ago.
So long ago.
But it stayed with both of us.
Very, very much so.
Even though there were parts of this movie last night that we were just like, fuck, we forgot. We were like,
brutal.
This got brutal.
How morbid it can get.
But fuck.
Great movie.
But yeah, horror has probably been the genre that has thrived the most in the last 3 years.
Yeah, right. Post-COVID horror has been
and
chef's kiss.
I feel like Talk to Me will continue that trend.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And we're not just championing it because it's an Australian horror film.
No, not at all.
We both spoke to the directors.
A little.
But it's actually amazing.
And if it wasn't Australian, and if we hadn't spoken to the directors, we would have been saying the same thing.
Exactly. It's incredible.
Assuming that the American people would have kept it the way that it is. Because
very true.
It is a very morbid horror film.
Maybe you should go watch my interview with them to find out what they think about if an American made the film.
There you go.
Potentially.
Anyway.
But sorry, I got a little sidetracked. Because it's not coming out July 27. It's coming out July 20, Oppenheimer.
It is part of the Barbenheimer
double feature rhetoric.
And as we mentioned, even though Barbie is probably the bigger movie of the two opening on July 20th.
Well, and you got to like take into consideration there, like
lower rating.
Yeah, PG, like family friendly rating, more like Barbie is definitely associated with children more so than anything. So you have a wider audience than the man who created the nuclear bomb. Yeah, and the Oppenheimer's got an R rating in the States, allegedly looking at an MA-15 plus
Because apparently there's a lot of sex and nudity in it.
I'm going to repeat the joke. I know I've already said it elsewhere, but I thought it was funny. 11 miles of IMAX film, and we know 10 inches of that is Cillian Murphy. I like that joke. I'm going to use it a lot.
Okay.
Thank you for not laughing.
I was like, if there's one thing that I'd like to use a lot, it'd be 10 inches of...
Cillian Murphy?
Not Cillian Murphy.
Not Cillian?
No.
Like, I love Cillian. Peaky Blinders.
Amazing actor. Amazing actor.
But you know,
just,
based on
just,
who...
It's just aesthetically, I'd be like...
But also, you know, you got a type.
I do have a type.
Go back to our Dwayne Johnson episode.
Go back to our Q&A episode where you'll find that I want
even
things
more so.
like, what was my dirty and enthusiastic sex with Jason Momoa?
That's right.
Love you.
So while we are detouring again, thank you all for listening to all our previous episodes.
Right.
We are just climbing and climbing each episode, and it is lovely to see, and we appreciate all your support.
Climbing each episode, climbing each other right to the
Top of the movie marathon mountain.
There we go.
Yeah, Paramount.
But
Reach out.
we are talking about Oppenheimer.
So
we're talking about Christopher Nolan.
We got a real memento thing going on right here. We are
do.
chopping and changing.
Right. So there's a movie coming out on July 20th called Oppenheimer.
Yes.
It is directed by Christopher Nolan. And last episode, when we told all of you wonderful, wonderful people that we were choosing Christopher Nolan, we said that we would each choose a Christopher Nolan film. And then we would let it out to the people to choose the third Christopher Nolan film.
Yes.
And we decided we were taking out the Dark Knight trilogy.
Yep.
Because it feels very separate from
it's a little disconnected.
And also, I feel like, is there really much more to say about the Dark Knight?
Totally. Just type in the Dark Knight on YouTube and you'll get 1001 analysis videos.
Of why they're great and of why they're shit. We don't need any more.
And if you wanted our opinion on them, they're great.
Yeah. But
You're welcome.
I mean, there's a lot more to it than
Thanks
that.
for tuning in.
Yeah.
But yes.
So Nick chose
Memento,
which is arguably Nolan's like breakout film.
Yes, yeah, his follow up from Following,
like his
it's like his Hollywood breakout.
Yeah.
And what did you choose?
I chose
Young Peter Gray.
Insomnia, which was his follow up to Memento,
and probably his most underwatched
which
movie?
Nolan agrees that he thinks it's his most underrated film.
And you know what? We will talk about it.
Yeah.
But I agree with a lot of elements of what he just said.
Absolutely. And then the third film,
we put it to you.
And we obviously had Interstellar, Tenet,
Dunkirk, and
The Prestige. We did mention Inception.
Yeah.
It couldn't fit in the in the poll.
Inception's just too girthy.
And we were also just like,
again, it's like the Dark Knight trilogy, right?
So we decided with those four.
Yes.
And
we have a poll.
It became like there were two films that were very much like out of the gate. They were the two that most people sort of seemed to favor.
Really sort of favor. Yeah. So all in all, in total across Instagram and Twitter, we had 141 votes.
Amazing.
So incredible. Oh, sorry, 131. Sorry, I overestimated by 10. 130. So stop the count. 131 votes in total. So coming in at last, bless its little soul, Dunkirk. 18 votes. Really quickly, love Dunkirk. I saw it in 70mm. Unreal. Just like, I love the way Nolan uses time in that film. It's a great film. Coming in third.
Which this kind of surprised me that this was
as low as it was.
Yeah.
Interstellar. At 31 votes there.
Yeah.
35 votes coming in at second, which we actually had a lot of actual verbal and message feedback about the desire for this film to be picked.
We had some people who were like, I really want to hear what you guys think about this film. And I was also like, part of me was like, I kind of want it to be chosen because I just want to rewatch it.
Totally,
I know that obviously
you could say the same for both 1 and 2.
I obviously know that I can rewatch Tenet whenever I want because I own it on 4K. That is also my way of saying buy physical media because
Please do.
with all the shit that's going on with films being taken away from
Streaming services,
you don't own anything.
movies that came out in 2023 being taken away from streaming services.
If you don't own a film, it can be taken away from you at any point. So
even the ones you buy,
on iTunes,
Amazon, all that,
they can be taken away.
Yeah. So please
buy
physical media. But you did say the name of the film in there. So coming in at second at 35 votes was Tenet. Which means coming in at number 1, 47 votes. So a decent bloody win is your pick, which we will be talking about today. The Prestige. So that's our 3 Nolan picks for this month's episode: Memento, Insomnia, and The Prestige, which I hadn't seen The Prestige. Actually, no, that's a lie. I was going to say in a while, but it was before Tenet came out. I did a rewatch of all of Nolan's films. Not Batman trilogy again. So hadn't been too long. How long has it been since you've seen The Prestige?
I hadn't seen it since I saw it in the cinemas in 2006.
That's crazy. That's also crazy that it's 17 years old.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit.
Yeah.
And also came out the same year as The Illusionist. Which
I saw
is
as well.
I think kind of underrated.
I don't like it as much.
Oh, no, not as much as The Prestige is far better than The Illusionist.
Just because I have this thing with Paul Giamatti.
Wow.
I don't like him.
Why don't you like Paul Giamatti?
He just has this.
Like, I've never really come to like a hectic defense of Paul Giamatti, but that kind of shocks me because I kind of love him.
Nah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Big Fat Liar?
No.
What? I grew up watching that.
Okay, like, I like the film Sideways.
Yeah. And
but obviously not because of him.
Well, I'm assuming Thomas Hayden Church, Sandra Oh, sort of,
Virginia Madsen.
Yeah.
I love the movie Shoot 'Em Up.
So do I. Dude, shoot 'em ups, like that and Smoking Aces, super underrated.
Clive Owen killing someone with a fucking carrot.
Yeah,
amazing.
that's right.
Smoking Aces, so
Smoking Aces is great.
Oh,
anyway,
but
sorry.
There's just something really like cocky and off-putting about Paul Giamatti.
Right, because I was going to ask, is it a visual thing or is it a personality thing? But yeah, it seems like a person.
Oh, it's a little bit of
he gives me like, he's got a bit of Philip Seymour Hoffman. They both have that pudgy.
Except I love Philip
Seymour Hoffman. Interesting.
I think it's just the fact that he.
Did you expect me to react so poorly to you not liking Paul Giamatti? Because I didn't expect it.
No, I didn't expect it at all. I was like, all right, calm down.
Well, we can say for a fact, and probably much to the happiness of Pete, that Paul Giamatti does not feature in any 3 of these films.
He does not. He does not.
For anyone out there who is concerned, this is a Paul Giamatti free episode of the monthly movie marathon.
Thank God.
Shout out Paul Giamatti. So shall we? Look, we fucked around heaps to start with.
We really fucking.
We've gone from beginning to end. We were in the middle at some points. We're all over the place, much like my pick for the Christopher Nolan monthly movie marathon leading up to Oppenheimer in cinemas June. Fuck me. I can't get dates right. July 20th. Courtesy of Universal Pictures. Memento came out in it.
Or if it was like the way that it sort of played backwards.
Otnemem came out.
I don't know why that's so funny.
Came out in the year 2000. So it's Christopher Nolan's second feature film, his first being Following, but this one, like we said, is the one that
his
broke him into Hollywood.
Yeah.
Now, I will open strong.
Ooh.
I have no joke seen this movie probably estimated about 15 times.
Right.
And controversially, it is my favorite Nolan film.
Ooh, okay.
It is absolutely 100% hands down. Now, that's not to discredit any other Nolan film because I love a lot of Nolan's films. But Memento is my favorite film. I am a sucker for the crime thriller genre. I'm a sucker for a psychological thriller.
Yeah.
And if there's a movie that's smarter than me, I just have to respect it.
Not hard.
Not hard. No. Like let's not lie. Jumanji the next level is smarter than me. So I love that that's the first movie that came.
Yeah, which I mean that just proves
it proves.
But also you started strong. I will start limp.
And we'll meet in the middle.
And be like, this was the first time I'd seen this film since 2000.
Wow.
Actually, 2000. No.
2001.
2001, because it premiered in 2000 across, I think, like Tribeca. And then in 2001, it received its like worldwide theatrical release.
Okay.
So I haven't seen this since 2001.
22 years ago. Yeah. What was your, well, actually, I will say this as well. Sorry. Critic rating on Rotten Tomatoes, 93%.
Yes.
Audience score, 94.
Yes.
A man with short-term memory loss attempts to track down his wife's murderer. That's all you need to know.
that's literally the movie.
We're going to tell you more, but that's all you need to know.
Yeah.
So when you first saw it in 2001, Pete, what was the thoughts? What did young Peter Gray think
young Peter Gray was like, this is a mind fuck of a film.
Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah, it is.
And I think a part of me had a worry to rewatch it because it's kind of one of those films that watching it for the first time is like an experience.
Oh, totally. Yeah, yeah.
So I think a part of me was worried, like, is it going to hold up? Am I going to be picking? Is it then going to become too like linear for me?
Right.
And is it and then it's like, is it actually not that great of a film because it's done the way that it's done?
Yep.
Thankfully, rewatching it, no, it's fucking great.
It's great. It's brilliant.
Even if it was done in a chronological order, it's still a really great fucking movie.
It's a really great premise. Yeah. It's a great concept, which a concept that was based on a short story
Memento
Mori by Jonathan Nolan, Christopher Nolan's brother. And I was reading up that
is this the
car trip?
No.
Okay, so ideally, not ideally. The idea was I came to Jonathan Nolan in a car ride that him and Chris were having. I think they were actually traveling to California. And he pitched him the idea of the short story as a film, and they've just fleshed out the whole idea. And then Christopher Nolan was like, all right, well, you go off and write the script and we'll see how it goes. And then he came back with this script, and Nolan was like, well, what if we did it this way? We did this storyline here in black and white intercut throughout the film, and we do that in chronological order, where we find out about the condition, we find out about what happened to
the patient
and the Sammy Jenkins patient. And then everything in color is played backwards chronologically and is after those moments, but sort of like the climactic point of the journey. So if you're not mind fucked already, I don't blame you. So,
but my thing was that it was eligible. It got nominated for Best Original Screenplay.
Right.
Because the short story hadn't been released
like
before.
Published.
Hadn't been published before the film. So it's like, that's why it's not adapted
screenplay. That's all right. Take your time.
All right.
Have a sip.
Thanks, Nick.
But it's like, to me, it's one of those things where obviously Nolan, especially more so, I can't even say later in his career because he did it with The Prestige as well, is really good at fleshing out full stories. And then he strikes me as someone who is a, what's the word I'm trying to think, where they sort of deconstruct something from the start. Like it's a fully fleshed thing. This makes me sound super intelligent right now. Backwards something. It's backwards something. Why can't I think of this goddamn phrase?
It's like he's a backwards thinker.
Yeah, somewhat, but it's like taking a finished product and then like deconstructing it, right? And that's where I think he does his best work. When he deconstructs something and is able to build it back up to be like, and this is where we will reveal this to the audience.
Yeah, I think it's almost like he has the ending like. It's almost like he's like, this is what I want to have.
But not
revealed.
even like the ending. I'm like, he's got like the fully formed picture, and then
like,
he can
but
break
he looks
it all
at it
down.
Like, but this is where this needs to happen, and this is
totally And I really think that comes across the most, I would say, in Memento. But when you look at like stuff like The Prestige, we'll talk about even Inception with like how dense that movie can go with its layers. Interstellar, obviously, with how it uses time and whatnot.
I mean, even like Tenet, the way that the action is backwards.
There's two timelines happening concurrently, forward and backwards. Like it's incredible. And he obviously loves time. He has this obsession with time. Whereas in Memento, time isn't necessarily a theme of the film, but time is used as a narrative construct to fuck with the mind, so to say. I think as well, this is arguably one of Guy Pearce's best performances.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's not spoken about enough.
No.
The fact that he can convincingly play a man who consistently loses his memory.
Yeah.
And be convincing, not just to the audience, but to every character in the film about it. But have this like underlying, like, I know what my mission is, so to say. I need to avenge my dead wife.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So professionals have watched this film and they have said that his his portrayal of having that sort of retrograde amnesia. Is that what it is?
I think so. Yeah.
They were just like, it is the most realistic form.
Yes.
So like psychologists, like they've all just looked at it and been like, this is what someone would actually.
Which makes
the way that
some of those scenes, which makes some of the scenes in this movie like almost like a horror film.
Yeah.
In some parts.
And then Stephen Tobolowsky.
Yes, who plays Sammy Jenkins.
He actually had a form of it.
Oh.
And he was like, that's why they were like, okay, that not why he got the role, but he was like, that's why he was able to really like
pull in from that.
Portray that. And most of his scenes are improvised.
That doesn't shock me because obviously he's a comedian as well, so he's got that. But like, there is such a natural feel to those scenes. So I guess to break those scenes down. So the black and white scenes that are playing in normal chronological order, are Guy Pearce's character, which I should get his name up. Sorry, I should remember by this point. Leonard. Leonard is on the phone to someone. We don't know who he's on the phone to, and he doesn't really know he's on the phone to. And he's explaining his short-term amnesia, which was brought on by the fact that he has a blunt force head trauma from an attack in which obviously he was attacked, but his wife was raped and murdered. His
wife was raped and murdered. He came in to see basically her dying
and was attacked.
He managed to get the attacker.
Yeah.
Second attacker came,
hit him in the back of the head. So he's dedicated his life now to finding who raped and murdered his wife.
Yeah.
But while he's on the phone to this person, he's talking about how his job beforehand was as an insurance claims, not an analyst, but he's the sort of person who would go and talk to people who are filing an insurance claim about something.
Basically figure out
if they're bullshitting or not.
Yeah.
And he's like, I got really good at reading people. I look directly in their eyes when I talk to them to see if I can trust them, all that sort of jazz. And he talks about this to the person on the phone. He talks about this one case that was Sammy Jenkins, which is Stephen
Tobolowsky,
And he had this condition, this sort of short-term amnesia. And we sort of see the effect that has on how Leonard does his job.
Yeah.
Like he actually didn't know whether this guy was bullshitting or not. Like he was like, either he's a great actor or he's actually got what he says.
Yeah.
But even more dreadfully and like horrifyingly how it affects the relationship with his wife, what that leads to.
I'll also say she is played by Harriet Hansom.
She's incredible.
If you have seen Licorice Pizza, she has one of the best scenes. So she's like the agent who tells
oh my God,
how she's like, you're a fucking pit bull.
That scene's brilliant.
Watch Licorice Pizza anyway,
in general, because it's awesome. But
she's like the kind of actress that you see her and you'd be like, I know that I've seen you in something. She's never had like the major role.
Yeah.
She always has little roles, but she always like fucking just like
she steals it.
And she is heartbreaking in this, especially when you realize what she's doing basically to figure it out, but then also almost like to put herself out of misery. We can spoil it.
This is a spoiler show.
So basically, she's diabetic.
Yes.
And she tells her husband to
administer the insulin.
Inject her with insulin. And
by this point, she's kind of at her wit's end. She's struggling with the relationship because of
she's like, I don't
Sammy's.
I don't actually know if he's
Yeah.
telling the truth or not. So she's like, you need to inject me. So he injects her. He then goes back to sit down. She turns the clock back and basically says to him, you need to inject me.
Right, because she uses the timer on the clock, which it's spoken about by Leonard when he's on the phone, is that like sounds can be triggers for people. So despite his short-term amnesia, when he hears that sound, his mind will go, oh, I know I have to do something right now. Yeah. And then she goes, it's time to administer the insulin.
So she's basically doing it to be like, if you inject yourself with too much insulin, you're going to die.
Yeah.
So she's like, well, he either truly has forgotten and he'll keep injecting me because he believes it's the first time.
Or he won't do it.
He won't do it and he's lying. And or she's like, or he'll keep doing it and she's like, and then I'll be basically put to rest.
Yeah, she's like,
I can't, because she's like, I can't do this anymore.
It's like a form of suicide almost. Yeah.
So he keeps injecting her and she dies.
Passes away and then he lives the rest of his days in a mental hospital.
Because it's like
it's awful.
It's horrible.
So that's the black and white part of the movie. And then as we get to the climax of sort of that, that is when Leonard kind of figures out he has like a snap in his brain of like, oh, there's something I know about this. Not remembers, but something I know about this. What is also cool about that whole thing is that it's revealed that he has tattoos all over his body with either it's rules or clues and facts, names. Yeah. The coolest one, obviously, is the reveal when he sees in the mirror and he's got John G. raped and murdered my wife, but it's backwards. So when he looks in the mirror, it's the first thing he sees. Oh. It's really cool, and it's spoofed so well in some things. I don't know if you've ever. I don't know how much of Community you've watched.
Not all of it yet.
There's a great episode. I think it's around it's in one of the later seasons. I'm going to say season 5 off a whim, but Chang's character, played by Ken Jeong, gets Changnesia, and that lasts for seasons. But he comes back to Greendale after a spout of it, and he's got writing all over his body like Memento. But the one that you can really see on camera is on his arm. It says "Rent Memento." It's one of my favorite jokes, maybe as a Memento fan. But
I will just quickly say about Guy Pearce. Yes. Do you know who was originally?
No, I don't actually. No.
Christopher Nolan initially wanted Alec Baldwin.
I can see it. No, I can absolutely see it.
2001.
Absolutely. I can see that.
Then it was Thomas Jane,
right?
Aaron Eckhart,
okay,
Charlie Sheen, Brad Pitt.
Wow, I can. Oh, yeah,
you can definitely see Brad Pitt.
You can see Brad.
So Brad Pitt got the closest to starring in it.
Okay.
He then had to back out because of scheduling conflicts.
Right.
So Nolan was like, you know what? We can save a fuck ton of money. If we hire someone
who's not as well known.
So they got Guy Pearce.
Oh, and he's so fucking good.
And also with Carrie-Anne Moss.
Yes.
Ashley Judd.
Yes.
Famke Janssen.
Yeah.
And Angelina Jolie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
But he saw The Matrix and was like, I want Carrie-Anne Moss.
Yeah.
And then for Joe Pantoliano, she was she recommended him.
I did read that actually. Yeah. I did read that. So.
And so then the film itself obviously was released to Tribeca.
Yeah.
Everyone fucking loved it. But no, it was weird. Every studio loved it. No studio wanted to take a chance on it.
No, because they were like, "There's no way this is."
They was like, "This won't play dense. They won't play this
people won't enjoy it." Yeah.
Harvey Weinstein.
But
at a point, there was a point when Harvey Weinstein, everything he touched was amazing.
Yeah.
Even he was like, "I don't know if I can."
That's saying something. That's like a man. That is a man who understood the film, especially in the early 2000s, the film business. Look at his Oscars.
This little known company called Newmarket got it.
So because they financed the film too. They took their own risk, right?
They were we're going to risk it. They got it. Obviously, it paid off.
So the budget was $9 million, and it made $40 million worldwide.
I think 25 in America.
America, yeah.
So that's awesome. $40 million on $9 million budget. That's
cool. That's 4 times your budget, baby.
And then Weinstein, was one of those things where he's like, I should have. So he tried to get the American rights to it.
True,
and they were just like,
nah. We gotta wear in our hands. I mean, thank God as well, though, because it's achieved cult status as well. It's one of those ones where when you talk about Nolan films, especially now in the post-Batman era, this one doesn't come up. And that's a travesty.
It's almost like everything pre-Batman Begins, even pre-Dark Knight, which is really only
Prestige, Batman, and
it's
Memento
almost like people are just like they forgotten, and then it's all just Inception, Interstellar,
which is kind of why we wanted to do these films with Oppenheimer, because Oppenheimer, to us, based on what we know about it and having not seen the trailer, strikes me as one of these more original Nolan films, these more character-centric pieces. Not to say that his other movies aren't about the characters that are in it, but there's a lot more spectacle behind it.
I think obviously
Inception's about the concepts, not the character.
Yeah.
Interstellar has a lot of human elements to it, but the spectacle of it outweighs the human story.
And same with Tenet.
Same with Tenet.
But I mean, also, they're all great fucking movies.
Incredible.
I'm someone, I know that Tenet got a lot of shit. I think Tenet's fucking great.
And you know what? I'm one of those people who, on the first watch, I was like, I don't know. Second watch, with subtitles, loved it. I was like, oh, fuck.
I need to rewatch it with subtitles.
Totally. I think I still gave it 3.5 when it came out, and it's probably bumped up to a 4 now. So, but back to Memento.
Yes.
So then that's all the black and white stuff. So the colored scenes that are in chronological reverse order.
Yeah.
So ultimately the movie starts
Yeah, so if you...
It doesn't start at the end.
Yeah, if you haven't seen Memento and you hear us saying it plays backwards, it's not like it's a case of like it literally plays backwards. It's a case of there'll be
like the final scene.
Scene Z.
That is the way he explains it. He does numbers and letters.
He was so basically it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you go
Z, Y, X, W.
And they're playing, that's why the way they play it, yeah.
And then the movie meets at the midpoint at the end of the film
when you realize everything that's happened has sort of brought it to this point.
And early on in the film, you can tell that something's a bit off with how it's constructed because the opening scene is riveting. It's great.
Oh yeah.
The opening scene is actually literally played in reverse, which is even better.
Except for when he says no.
Oh no! It is.
Oh no! Sorry,
he screams.
He screams.
He just screams. But then the no is the next bit.
Yeah. Who Christopher Nolan dubbed Pantaleone's voice.
He
freak.
dubbed the word freak, which is great.
And Pantaleone didn't know until he heard it in an interview.
Oh, he did such a good job.
He apparently couldn't say the word "you freak" the way that Nolan wanted him to. So he dubbed his voice and like basically mimicked his voice. And if you didn't know,
you wouldn't know.
There's no way.
But I know.
Yeah,
and I know every time.
Know. Yeah.
And then so everything in color is basically, if you were to put it in chronological normal order,
is like
where the movie ends is the start of that, and that plays through, and it is ultimately the last 24 hours leading up to whether Leonard is going to find who raped and murdered his wife.
Yeah.
So you know at the beginning that Joe Pantoliano's character, who is to Leonard a detective.
Yeah.
Who's got, doesn't know he's a detective at first. Then we find out he's a detective.
Yeah.
Who we think was supposed to be helping him is murdered in the first scene.
Yeah, and he's murdered by a guy.
By Leonard, right? He's shot in the head.
Yeah. And it's funny how
it's insane how those reveals happen.
But it's funny how like at the beginning of the movie, you're seeing Guy Pearce kill Joe Pantoliano. Yeah. And then obviously the next scene is like, hey, buddy. Is them like talk, and then like, him whining down the window and the car window's broken. And you're like, why is that? And then the next scene is because it got shot at. But it's crazy how
it's almost like episodic. Like it's like reveal, cliffhanger, black and white scene, reveal, cliffhanger, black and white scene.
And it's crazy how
really
even though you know that Pantoliano's character is it Teddy?
Teddy.
Yeah. Who he doesn't like being called Teddy.
No.
As we found out.
I love this movie.
But like, the fact that even though Teddy is like, we know you're the villain, we know you're going to die. Yeah. There's still so much like,
it's about finding out who he really is.
But you're still just like, I don't care. Like, even though you know that he's deceiving him, you're just like, but I need to know about you. And then obviously when Carrie-Anne Moss characters comes in.
Oh man, she's a tour de force in this movie. Natalie.
And you're like, okay, who is this woman?
Who she's presented initially as someone who just has information for Leonard. Like she works at a bar and she may know who this John G is. And then as that non-chronological aspect of the film plays out, you find out more and more about that. Well, the name or the person that she's given Leonard may not actually be John G. It might be maybe an ex-partner
that she's just
she said she's been abused by.
Yeah, that she's
got bruises. She's got the split lip, which leads to one of the most confronting and like jaw-dropping in the sense where I remember the first time I saw it and I went, no fucking way.
As in when she comes back in the house.
When she comes back in the house.
So the scene that we're talking about has, first of all, dialogue that would probably get you cancelled this.
Oh, yeah. C words, R words, like everything. Yeah.
And if you don't know what the R word is.
Which also, but like in the context of the film and who she is as a character, like it's an evil thing to say and it's an evil thing for her to do. So like, don't get all butthurt being like, oh, Nolan should be cancelled for saying the R word. Like,
first of all, it was 2000.
Firstly.
And everybody.
Times have changed.
And like, so really,
now.
The R word, everyone was saying very flippantly.
Oh, shit, yeah. Oh, God, yeah.
But she's also saying it kind of like in a very pointed way.
Just a really random side note. The Bear season 2 does a really good bit about they're one of the characters. Have you watched The Bear?
No.
Oh, it's great. So there's a character who is very much like very outlandish with what he says and stuff, takes no prisoners, and he's trying to change that. Right. And he says an apology to someone. He's like, I didn't even say R or G. You can't get mad at me. I didn't say R or G. And someone goes like, what is R or G?
Right.
And then it's funny. It's
Hey,
Guys, come on.
But yeah,
Sorry.
so she says that, and then obviously dropping the C word in 2000 was still kind of
huge.
Kind of huge.
Yeah, big deal. Well, not for Australia.
Not for Australia.
But in an American film. Yeah.
But yeah, so she's basically just like berating him, saying like, you don't. She's like, I can say this to you because you won't remember.
Yes.
Like your wife died a whore.
Yeah,
Like it was. She's just going at it, and you sort of. I mean, that is confronting in itself. And she's saying it as she's got bruises all.
She's Oh no, this is before. This is before. It causes her.
So then he
hits her. He reactionarily hits her. Yeah.
And she keeps
going. She's going and going.
And then she leaves the house and sits in her car. And so you're sort of just like processing the scene.
You're like, what the fuck just happened?
And then
then the jaw dropping moment happens.
She gets out of the car,
walks
comes back
in
the house, is all like crying and is like.
He's like, what happened?
Because he's like, then he's completely forgotten.
Because he's got short-term amnesia.
And she's like, oh, he abused me. And she's then playing it off like her partner abused her.
Which then the scenes before that happened beforehand where with the character of Dodd, we find out why Leonard has gone after this guy thinking he's John G.
It's...
so ultimately, like at the crux of it, while Leonard is trying to find out who John G is to try and avenge his wife's murder.
Yeah.
He's been used by Carrie Ann Moss's character to ultimately just get rid of a dude she doesn't like.
Yeah. And she's like, because he's like the easiest person to do it because also like he'll forget that he's done it.
And the only reason she's doing that is because she knows from Teddy that he has been using Leonard to take down in this instance, but it is alleged that he's been doing it before this to take down a local drug dealer who he hasn't been able to get evidence on.
Yeah.
So he's like, I'm just going to use this guy
who'll keep forgetting
that to convince him that this drug dealer called Jimmy is John G.
Yeah.
Because he has the same initials, JG, to kill him thinking it's the wife's murderer, and it'll just be done. Like we'll just like, and worst comes to worst, this Leonard guy just goes to prison for killing someone, but my drug dealer's off the street.
Yeah.
It's fucked.
And also,
it's so mental.
And also, I understand if you'll want to then replay that whole conversation because it's
so much is going on.
It's crazy.
And like I said, I've seen this about 15 times.
Yeah.
And it's probably like on the last 5 watches where I've really like every scene I'm watching, like I know what this means and I know where this is leading. I don't feel confused watching it. But for the first few, it's like nothing against anyone who feels like overwhelmed by it.
If you're confused by this film, that's okay. It's not one of those things
There's
where
like 4 stories.
It's not like where people are just like, oh my God, like you didn't get it. Like, and you're just like, no, like it's okay not to get it. Same thing when you first watch Inception, you first watch Interstellar, you first watch Tenet, you're just like.
I remember the first time, because I never saw Inception in the cinemas, which is a crime. But the first time I watched it on Blu-ray, I watched it again immediately afterwards. It was just one of those movies where I was like, I need to fucking know what just happened.
I remember seeing Inception at the preview screening, and then it ending and everyone just being like that slow murmur of everyone, and then for a few weeks when obviously more and more people started seeing it, and you'd go to like, you know, you'd catch up with friends or go to dinners.
Everyone was talking about
it. Just sort of just go Inception, and then everyone would have and then everyone would have like what they thought of it. I was like, that's great that everyone thinks of something, has a different interpretation of it. You can't really have a different interpretation of Memento because it's like
it's very straight.
It is essentially this very linear story.
It's a straightforward narrative.
It's just the way that it's done that you sort of have to go. So there is a version on the physical release, like on DVD.
I'm unsure if it's on my Blu-ray. I have the Blu-ray,
where you can watch it chronologically,
which is kind of cool. And I might have to check that out one day. I'm shocked that I haven't done it. There's also, I just want to bring up a scene, and because with Nolan talking about how Oppenheimer is sort of like his most intimate story, like humanly intimate story yet. There is a really heartbreaking section of scenes here where Leonard or Lenny hires a prostitute to pretend to be his wife.
Yeah.
Like, because he knows he'll forget.
Yeah.
So he wants like a quick moment to be like I just want to lie in bed with her. Yeah. Like it kind of looks like her too, his wife. And then when he wakes up, and she kind of fucks with him a little bit. She's like, we had sex. And she's like, no, I'm kidding. Like, of course we didn't. He like pays. It's like heartbreaking. It's kind of like he, even though with his condition, he still has this crave for intimacy. And I'm like, it's really sweet.
And like, and then he tells her, he's like, oh, can you just like put this stuff like around the house?
That's right. Yeah, he really wanted to like recreate it. He also thought, I think he has a line where he says he would hope it would spark something in his memory as well, but it's brutal.
And then it's one of those things where like when the movie ends, and even though it's like everything's kind of done, you just realize he's still going to forget.
Well, the last, where the movie, because in a really cool way, Nolan then turns the black and white moments into color.
Yeah.
So that way you're like, okay, now we're up to date with what you need to know. Before Teddy gets killed, he basically admits to Leonard that he will like, I'm just going to keep using you until I don't need you anymore, which then Leonard's last scene where his internal monologue, because it's less the phone call now and more just the internal monologue. He is like, well, I may never find John G, but I'm not going to remember that I'm never going to find John G. And I'll just keep doing this. And basically says, I'm going to just have to keep killing people until this is all done. Yeah. Which is fucked.
Yeah,
like, it's really morbid.
It's horrible. Like, yeah, because you just go.
I love it.
Yeah, because eventually just like, well, if you kill the correct people, you're not going to be able to find these people,
right?
And then and then he's going to think people are lying to him. So then he'll probably kill those people, which will then bring more people out. So it's just this really horrible
cycle.
But man, fucking watch Memento. If you can.
It's so good.
Also,
if you can find it. So right now, this movie is on no streaming services unless you have Fetch. And if you have Fetch, congratulations. You're one of the 2 people that do. Also, if you have Fetch, what is Fetch?
Yeah, I'd love to know.
Slide in our DMs.
But Memento is really hard to find.
Yes.
A small part of me thinks with the release of Oppenheimer, we might get this like on this influx of like Nolan.
Well, because they did that with Interstellar. Yeah. They had the Nolan box set.
So it'd be nice if
which Memento
and Insomnia both got like
physical releases
again.
Yes, because I do have Memento.
I know that Insomnia was released to buy on DVD. I don't know if it ever got a Blu-ray release here.
I don't think it did. No.
So it'd be nice if these films did.
Absolutely.
Let's hope that Oppenheimer kind of brings about
a bit of interest in these films.
But that is Memento.
That's Memento. I do want to say one line from the film that I wrote down that I did want to point out is that when he's on the phone and he's talking about his routine and his process, is that when he opens up and he's like, every hotel room has a Gideon Bible. I read it religiously. And he does his like little to himself on the phone. Yeah. And I was like, bless ya. And then that's when everything goes down.
Also, all of his, all the voiceovers was pretty much Guy Pearce just on the fly. Like wasn't scripted.
So good. So fucking good. It's a great movie.
It's a great movie.
It's my favorite Nolan film. Absolutely go watch it.
Yes, please.
But then he followed up this film with your film pick.
With my film.
Which is Insomnia.
Insomnia.
So he's gone from memory loss to lack of sleep-induced memory loss.
Yeah.
Through sleep deprivation. But 2002, Insomnia came out. 2 Los Angeles homicide detectives are dispatched to a northern town where the sun doesn't set to investigate the methodical murder of a local teen. Insomnia, currently 92% critic score.
Fantastic.
77 for audiences.
I can kind of see why, because it's not, and this isn't coming off as like a criticism, but it's not like, it's not an exciting film in terms of like,
it's got like 1 or 2 great set pieces.
Yeah, it doesn't have a lot of set pieces. This is a movie that you just like, okay, this is like a dialogue and this is story.
Yeah,
so I understand audience, even like 77% is still really fucking
still very good. But then you look at like all of Nolan's films and it's like, okay, right.
But this is the film that Nolan thinks is his most underrated. It is the only film of his that he didn't write.
Yes.
This is a remake of like a Swedish,
Norwegian, I believe. Yeah.
Also, like, let's just banger of a cast: Al Pacino, Robin Williams, Hilary Swank. Then we've got there's like Martin Donovan's
Nikki
in it.
Nikki Cat,
Catherine Isabel.
So,
Harrison Ford was who he initially wanted to play
Al Pacino's character,
which I can see. Will Dormer. But yeah, I remember seeing this. I saw this in cinemas in 2002.
Right.
I fucking loved it. I think going back, I remember I graded films out of 10. I'm pretty sure I gave this like a 9 out of 10.
Whoa.
I really liked it.
Wow.
On rewatch, probably wouldn't give it a 9 out of 10.
I think I gave it a 7.
It'd still be like a 3.5, 4-star
Yeah,
movie.
totally. Yeah. It surprised me more this time how much, because I've only seen it once before this.
Yeah.
That was back in the video store days. Took the DVD home, watched it, hadn't seen it since, and I was shocked at how much I really liked it.
I'm
considering
the same.
I don't remember hating it.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, it's not one I've returned to. I was like, oh shit, like this is a fucking good movie.
And this was one that I like. So a lot of the things that surrounded this film was the fact that Robin Williams was playing like the villain.
Yeah, a psychopathic
And
killer.
obviously, like Robin Williams, we knew that could be an amazing dramatic actor. Like, you know, like
He'd already done-
Good Will Hunting, Dead Poets
He's done
Society.
Birdcage as
but,
well.
you know,
Which
like,
is, I know Birdcage is also a comedy.
But-
It's a very dramatic
but we
performance
knew
in a
that,
comedy. Yeah.
you know, and then he had like this and 1
1
hour
hour photo.
and you're just like, oh, okay.
You're crazy, man.
So I remember like rewatching this. All I could remember was like I remember that Robin Williams was essentially the villain,
Yes.
but I didn't remember anything
like
else.
just- yeah, totally.
And a part of me when I was watching it, I was like, Hilary Swank seems suspicious. So I kept in my mind thinking she has something to do with this because. And
Yeah,
it's like,
okay. I can-
so,
I know, I
and then
can
when you
see that,
and then when you
though,
watch
yeah.
it thinking she's suspicious
Yeah,
because she's obviously piecing everything
Together, yeah.
and so she's probably the only like good character in this whole film.
Totally, that's the thing. Like, she is the person who is.
She's like our conscience, I guess.
Totally, yeah. She's looking for everything in the right places where no one else is, which makes her look more suspicious than everyone else.
And then obviously Al Pacino's kind of just like, you don't need to do that. So really, the story is that we have in LA, we know that Al Pacino and Martin Donovan's characters,
Will Dormer and Hap Eckert,
have done some shady shit.
They're under investigation from Internal Affairs
Because they've essentially almost like there's like
it is revealed.
Yeah, there's like a pedophile that's essentially going to walk free.
And they plant evidence.
And they've planted evidence so that way he won't. And Martin Hap is basically like he's told Dormer, he's like, I'm throwing you under the bus.
Yes.
Like I'm getting immunity.
Yeah.
You're going to go down.
So they've both been sent to this to escape the heat a little bit. They're
sent
like,
to Alaska at a time of the year when the sun never sets.
24-hour sun.
24-hour daylight.
and then there's the dinner conversation where Hap is
where
reveals
he's like,
Will.
I'm gonna throw you under the bus.
Now they have to be in this remote Alaskan town where the sun doesn't set,
solving this murder,
solving a murder of a local girl,
where they're both a bit like
they're at each other's heels now. That's like they don't know if they can trust each other.
Yeah.
Well, at least Will doesn't think he can trust Hap anymore. Yeah.
So then they are investigating this murder, and it comes the first, I guess, major conflict of the film is that they are sent to a particular area that the killer, who is revealed as Robin Williams, but he's also the killer, but not like intentionally so.
Not
Like he's doing everything for a reason.
His reasons. We won't say good reasons, but it's his reasons.
And then
his motives are made apparent.
Yes. So he then gets them, in this one area, and you assume it's to kill them.
Yes.
And he manages to, fire off a few shots, and Dormer is...
Well, it's kind of fucked initially first, remember? Because he's like, why are we staking out a place where we don't know where the exits are? Like, because they storm in and then Williams gets away, which you don't really see him.
No, so you don't,
which is kind of great.
So Robin Williams, you don't hear his voice until about 48 minutes.
And then you don't see him until after an hour.
Until after an hour.
I remember looking at the timestamp. I was like, it's after an hour when he actually pops up on screen.
So...
Which is awesome.
Yeah. And then... in the haze of like all of the smoke and the fog and stuff.
Fog chase, man. Such a good set piece. And it's so eerie because it's one of those things where Nolan's direction kind of it disorientates you because you don't know where Will Dormer is or Al Pacino. You don't know where Robin Williams is.
Well, because you're also like you don't actually know. Like you're like.
You're unaware of the surroundings,
and you're like,
foggy.
I don't know who the killer is. Really.
Well, that too, yeah.
And then so Dormer's like trying to figure out what's going on. Hap's trying to figure out what's going on, and then
you don't know Hap's out there initially, which is great.
So then he shoots
at what he thinks is the killer,
which then is revealed as Hap.
Whoopsies.
So then Hap is on the ground, and in his mind, Hap is like,
You've done this on purpose.
You've killed me on purpose because you knew that
I was going to betray. Well, not betray. I was going to, protect myself. And then,
stuff. So that's one thing. Because then it's kind of like the rest of the film, as we see, in all of his sleep deprivation,
because the sun doesn't
the
go
sun
down.
doesn't go down, Dormer is like fighting, being like, well, did I kill
He doesn't
him on
know.
purpose?
Yeah, he doesn't know whether. Yeah,
He's like, and it's
but
so great
He's
to-
trying to solve this murder
because he's
at the same
genuinely
time.
like, I still want to do my job.
Yeah. But it almost becomes like an obsession for him though. Too,
to be like, I need to, like, if I find the killer of this, it almost like, will it undo what I've done?
because
sort of
he
thing.
also calls Hap's wife.
Yes.
And tells her that
basically-
he died, but
yeah,
she's like, I
doesn't-
want you to get the person
Yeah.
that killed, because Will Dormer doesn't admit that he's killed Hap.
No.
So everyone's also now trying to
figure out. Yeah.
They are pretty much under the assumption that the killer, Robin Williams' character, Finch, has shot Hap.
Yeah.
But it's when Hilary Swank's character, who's the up and coming detective, finds a bullet casing that doesn't match it matches a different gun.
Yeah. It matches it matches the backup weapon that Al Pacino
had.
carries.
That's right, because he doesn't shoot. He puts his
Yeah.
service gun away and pulls out the backup gun.
And then he goes to great lengths. Like he goes to the morgue and like shoots an animal with a different
That's
gun.
right,
Takes
yeah.
the bullet out of that to
Oh my
swap the bullet
God.
because he's like, I need to cover my bases.
Yes.
And then Hilary Swank is like,
There's some weird
she's like,
shit.
this like the bullet hole, and then she's like, no, you said that he fell this way and the shot came from that direction, but the shot couldn't have come from that direction.
And so she's all over
and
it.
so she's like doing her job.
Which wigs Will out even more
he's
because
just
he
like-
doesn't know what's true.
Yeah.
Like, oh man.
And then you have
It's
Robin.
a great script.
And then you have Robin Williams basically being like, yes, I killed the girl.
Yes.
But also, hey, I know that you shot the cop, so let's help each other out. I will
reveal
Right?
like that
I will-
conversation is so fucking good.
I'll help you
Yeah.
cover this up if you help me
If you let me, if you let me go.
And then it's like because he's so sleep
And that's the
deprived-
whole second half of the
Yeah.
movie too, which is
And
great
because
because it
he's
starts kind of procedural.
Yeah,
and then
it's
just
very
turns into this
and
dark
because he's
fucking
so
movie.
sleep deprived and then so guilty, he's
Yeah.
like, well, maybe I should
Help him,
this
yeah.
guy. Because
Oh
he's
my
also like
God,
because
man.
it's like it's Alaska.
Well, that's
Like
true.
I don't
live here.
I have no ties to this place.
I solve a case.
I solve
go
the case.
home.
I go home. I go back to LA. Hap's dead.
There's nothing
Like,
bad
there's-
happening here. And
yeah,
he
yeah.
can put it on Hap. He can
Yeah,
just be like,
exactly.
oh man. It's so well done. But then, so like even not being a Nolan script, it's one of those ones where Nolan's kind of visual style is very
It is a
apparent.
beautiful looking film. The,
stunning looking movie.
Alaskan like just landscape.
Oh,
But
man.
then you have the
And
ability
Wally
for
Pfister,
those,
by the way. Wally Pfister, the cinematographer, who then worked on
Like, he's
pretty
worked
much
on, like,
everything up until...
and then made his own movie, which wasn't great.
Yeah, he worked on everything. He did Inception, and I don't think he did Interstellar. I think Interstellar...
Did he come back?
No. Hoyt van Hoytema has been
who's-
Nolan's DOP since,
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so-
well, Wally Pfister directed a little film called Transcendence.
unfortunately, which was like his attempt at like a Nolan
And
sci-fi.
it didn't do well. It wasn't good at all.
That's not neither here nor there.
Sorry, Pfister.
Welcome back to ASMR.
But no, we're saying
yeah.
the setting, and it brings about the ability for really unnerving set pieces.
Yes,
so we obviously
absolutely.
we have all the fog. One of the best ones is when he's chasing Robin Williams along the logs.
Oh my god, that's so
Right.
fucking scary. It unlocked a fear in me I didn't know I had.
When he goes under.
When he goes under, yeah, because he's running. It's like because obviously Alaska, it's like a logging town
Yeah,
too.
so Robin Williams is running along these
on water.
log- as the logs are like moving in the water, but he sort of knows how to.
But his running is what's causing them to move, right?
Yeah.
So when Al Pacino's in chase, it's more fucked. Like you
Yeah.
can't get to it, so he slips under.
and then he goes under, and then because all the logs are sort of basically being pushed
has
back,
no-
and then when he tries to get one, so it's like
it's so fucking scary.
And it's like I noticed watching it, I was like the sound design of just
Under the water.
of him trying to catch a breath, and it really quickly then
They're going like, whoop.
and then it shoot like the log shooting back, and then so then he
man.
and I was watching it going, I know that Al Pacino gets out of this, but
Yeah.
I was still like, I can't remember how.
Oh my
and he
God.
manages to like swim all the way back, and
He has to hold his breath for a long
and swim
time.
and gets out, and then basically just watches Robin Williams like disappear.
But those two set, well, there's technically three set pieces because like the climax of the film
ending,
as well.
yeah.
But like out of those two, the fog scene and the log scene, fog and log, That fog and log.
Sounds like a weird sex act.
It does a little bit. It's like a German sort of like
I
European.
I gave her the old fog and
Got the
log.
fog and log, yeah. Get the Fluggenspiel.
She did not like it very much. We're just two crazy dudes.
Shout out Eurotrip. Those are really tense set pieces. Like they only work because of how confident Nolan already is as a director by his third film. You know what I mean? Like, it to me, just they are highlights of the film in a movie that is still pretty damn good. But even the dialogue scenes, so when I like logged this on Letterboxd, right? I saw some reviews like, oh wow, that was a real sleepy performance from Al Pacino. I was like, that's the fucking point, dude.
He's sleep deprived.
That's the point. It actually makes it even better.
Piss off.
Because that's technically then an Oscar-worthy performance from him in that regard. But it makes all the scenes of dialogue almost like as you as the audience question what's true.
Yeah, because,
I won't say what's real. It's more like what's true.
Because you can see him just like walking about. His eyes just like
they're just dead. He's got dead eyes the whole movie.
And it's like, and I really noticed it like with when he's going opposite Hilary Swank, because she's like she's piecing everything together.
Totally.
She gives him, you know, like the report and just says like, this is what happened. And then you can just see him just like, he just
like blankly
and then he kind of just like looks at her and says his line, and she's like, are
you okay?
Yeah. Like it's
so good.
To call that like a sleepy performance is fucking hilarious, because I was like, he's
like, that's good.
Like,
unless it was used ironically, I don't think it was, but unless it was, but like Al Pacino's great in this film. Hilary Swank is great in this film, but obviously for me, like the scene stealer is Robin Williams. The scene stealer,
especially when, like, I think the scene when he goes to the police station, and so basically at this point, Al Pacino and him have like kind of come up with a plan to be like, Robin Williams is gonna plant it on the girl's boyfriend.
Yes.
So the murder victim is a 17-year-old girl, obviously wants to leave Alaska. Has an obsession with like crime novels. Finds Robin Williams' character who writes crime novels.
Yes.
And she's like, well, this is going off of what Robin Williams says.
This is what this character tells us.
Where he sort of says
when he's describing the murder.
Where he's like,
which is another scene.
Where he sort of says like, you know, her boyfriend would abuse her. She just needed someone to talk to. Like, I was there to comfort her. She loved writing. I was there to sort of see her writing. Like, yes, I bought her things that she wouldn't be able to afford herself. It was a friendship. And then Al Pacino's sort of, it's almost like because he's so sleep deprived, and even though he knows that Robin Williams has literal like recorded evidence of their conversation, he's just like, all right, well, I still need to act as if I don't know you.
Yes, yeah.
So then he's like, well, then you obviously would have had sex with her, like all that sort of stuff. And then it comes to the point where Robin Williams says, you assume that he kind of made an advance on her.
Yeah, and then
she laughed.
She laughed at him,
and then he was like, I just hit her to shut her up.
Yeah,
and obviously he hits her enough to kill her. And you never see the scene. You just see these
glimpses.
The flashes are like that's almost more disturbing,
because it's flashes of like the most brutal moments, but they're split second, because you see them earlier in the film when they look at the body too. They go to the morgue and look at the body,
and there's just this
and there's those flashes of the murder happening. But you don't see Robin Williams in those. You see the girl getting hit. Whereas now when he's describing you see him, Robin Williams performing the act,
playing the punch, and then like and then just really delicately like wiping the blood off her lips, because he's just like,
it's so ick, dude.
So he's but
it's good though.
But he's going like, but he's like, I'm pinning this on the boyfriend. And then I think in one of like the best scenes when Al Pacino's like, I'm gonna step out, because he realizes Robin Williams has planted a gun in the boyfriend's place, and he thinks he's put it in like the vent, because he says something about, the vents are always
he does like a sly not even a riddle, he's just like, oh, it's the vents.
And then Al Pacino leaves, goes to the boyfriend's house to find the gun, can't find it. Then the cops are like literally like minutes away in the house as Al Pacino's in the house, and they're looking for the gun. It's just like,
And then Hilary
it's
Swank's
so-
back at the cabin.
and then she's at the cabin going,
Because Finch invites her over to be like, oh, I've got the document, something that you need. I can't remember what it is.
yeah, like is it like the books of poetry or something?
Something. It's something. He's offering something to her
Basically,
anyway.
like, this is because Hilary Swank believes Robin Williams.
Yes, that's it. She has no reason to not believe.
and she's like, all right, and then gives Al Pacino her car as he's driving off, and he's like, I'll just leave. And then that's when she's just like,
there's something kind of
I don't
wrong
like
here.
how you're just.
And as soon as she figures it out, she gets hit over the head as well, and then
it's kind of like Robin Williams like properly reveals him. Like even though we know he's the villain, he's still been very
cherry on top of the
him being like, okay, you're actually like you're going to kill Hilary Swank and Al Pacino because even because then you just like because if they die, that's a whole other investigation, but he won't be sort of the person thought of because they've got. They're looking at the boyfriend.
Exactly, because there's a lot to suggest that
the boyfriend's done it.
Oh man, it's so like the intricacies of it are really great. Like they're really nuanced, but they're not convoluted. Like it's enough for me to be like, oh, every possible outcome, there is a certainty to all of them, which is great.
Like, and you can see why. You could almost be like, I could believe that Nolan would write something like this. Oh, totally,
yeah.
So you can see why he chose to do this.
Yeah. And then it leads to the final confrontation again at the cabin. Pacino he realizes kind of what's going on, goes back to the cabin, finds Swank is
like held not hostage.
But she's been tied up. Finch is then trying to escape, and then we get like almost a recreation of the fog scene without the fog. Like it's putting Will back into that situation.
Yeah. And then it's like
that chase underneath the cabin, like it's just real gross, dank sort of area.
But I love that in that moment, like even though at this point Robin Williams is like opposite them shooting.
Yes.
But like Hilary Swank and Al Pacino have that moment where she's like, I've put it all together. Like I know, and she's like, and she's almost like, I should take you in right now. And he's like, and then she's like, fuck it, and gives him the gun because she's like, ultimately, we need to help each other out. And she's almost like, I don't believe what you did was out of any
animosity.
And it was a genuine mistake, and you did what you thought you was to get yourself out of it. So, which makes his final line, so fucking heartbreaking.
So, because there's a confrontation then basically between Will and Finch, in which Will goes for a shotgun.
Yeah,
Finch has a handgun.
And they shoot each other. At the same time.
Obviously, the shotgun causing a lot more damage kills Finch immediately.
Oh, that shot where he's drowning, is
brutal.
Is like it's so unsettling because like you see Robin Williams obviously under the water, and then as he's slowly disappearing, it's like you can still just slightly make him out. Oh,
it's gross. It's really unsettling watching him die.
Yeah, it's really it feels really prolonged too.
It's a long shot.
Yeah.
Ugh. This movie's got some ick to it.
Yeah.
And then Will makes his way outside, is met up with Hilary Swank's character, and he's ultimately succumbing to the wounds. And then she goes to throw the bullet casing away that she found.
Let's have you, like, she's like, basically, you can die an innocent man.
Yeah, and then he stops her.
And he's like, don't. Like this will be the thing.
He says, "Don't lose your way."
Yeah, this will be the thing that if you do this,
you turn into me.
Yeah,
ultimately, is what
and then she's like, and basically he's like, no, and then he's like, I just want to
let me sleep.
And it's just
and then
like,
he dies.
Oh, and he dies.
It's fucking great.
Yeah,
it's like Insomnia. I agree with what Nolan said. It is underrated.
Yeah,
it's not his best movie.
No,
because there are moments that do feel long, especially being like an extended dialogue film. There is like a lot of scenes where I was like, this is feeling long.
Yeah.
And it's under 2 hours, but it still kind of feels a bit long. But it's so well put together.
And like a part of me hopes that maybe Oppenheimer brings about this resurgence for his earlier stuff.
I really hope so.
Like, because
I'm glad why we picked these movies.
Because I also feel like Insomnia and the next film we're talking about, I feel like those are the two that everyone kind of like forgets about.
Oh, agreed.
Like it's like we have the Dark Knight trilogy. You have Memento because it's his first film. You have like Inception because it fucking
it's the sci-fi film of a decade.
And then
century.
Interstellar, like everyone just loves it, and then Tenet because it's the most like recent.
Yes, absolutely.
I feel like this,
and probably his most ambitious.
Yeah.
I would say.
Yeah.
And now Oppenheimer being his most filled with penis and vagina, apparently.
Right.
So, I cannot wait to see it on IMAX.
Right.
IMAX cock. Anyway, moving on. Moving on to the final film, your pick, audience pick for this episode of the Monthly Movie Marathon, Christopher Nolan edition, with 40-something votes. I can't remember how many.
45? 47?
47. It was literally right there. I should have just looked. The Prestige, Hugh Jackman, Christian Bale, Rebecca Hall,
Scarlett Johansson,
Piper Perabo, Michael Caine, David Bowie, and Andy Serkis.
Yes.
Cast.
Banger cast.
Absolute banger cast. 76% critic rating.
Yeah.
Audience at 92.
Yeah.
They love it. People love it.
They love a little bit of Jack Man.
A little bit of jacked man, a little bit of
Christian's Bale.
There we go. I was trying to think of one.
I don't know.
Michael's Caine. Sad.
Like Scarlett's Johansson.
After a tragic accident, two stage magicians in 1890s London engage in a battle to create the ultimate illusion while sacrificing everything they have to outwit each other.
Yeah.
This is literally the drama version of The Incredible Burt Wonderstone.
It really is.
It really is. And
Also,
you could also say Incredible Burt Wonderstone is the comedy version of this. But
also,
underrated.
So fucking good.
Funny. I own it on Blu-ray.
Me too.
It is really fucking funny.
so funny.
It's dumb as shit. But
Steve
like,
Carell, is it Alan Arkin?
Alan Arkin's in it, Steve Buscemi,
Olivia Wilde,
Jim
Carrey.
Yeah. It is so
It's so
fucking
stupid,
funny,
but it's
man.
so funny.
And Jim Carrey playing this like Chris Angel mind freak sort of. I might watch that. I haven't watched that in a long time.
It's so fucking
It's underrated, super underrated.
Yeah. Yes.
Similar to The Prestige, which I think is less underrated these days. I think has been, probably since Tenet came out, this huge resurgence of The Prestige. I remember when Tenet was coming out, people were rewatching, they're like, holy shit, this might be Nolan's best movie.
One of those movies was like, why did no one tell me about it? Be like, we told you about it 17 years ago.
The Prestige premiered on Netflix. It's like, what? I didn't know Christopher Nolan did a magic movie. Like, bro, it was good then and it's good now. But I have seen this one a couple of times.
Right.
But this was, again, your first time since the cinema.
Since the cinema in 2006.
So what was your reaction in the cinema in 2006?
I remember liking it.
Yeah? Didn't love it, though.
I don't remember how I felt. I just remember.
You got that short-term amnesia.
Right? Who are you? No, I remember really liking it. I remember I saw this movie with my mum. I remember both of us were like, oh, that was really good. I remember like the twist. We were like, oh my God, how come
Twist is cool.
How come we didn't see that coming?
Twist
when you
is
rewatch it, you just like, it seems so fucking obvious.
But it isn't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's not one of those ones where, like, so recently, plugging another podcast, we did Fight Club on The Book Was Better. And watching Fight Club, they are screaming the twist at you from like 5 minutes into the movie.
Right, okay.
Whereas with The Prestige, it does get away with being like,
it
on
gets
your
away with
on your
it.
second watch, you're like, that's cheeky. But then like, it's not one that's ruined the first time.
Because I remember, obviously, the first time watching it, because I'm talking about a particular character.
Yes, totally.
Christian Bale's Fallon.
Yes.
He's always there, and then they show his face. But he's always got like he's got puffy cheeks and they've put prosthetics on. So I remember when I first saw it, I was never like, oh, that's Christian Bale. Because obviously Christian Bale looks like Christian Bale in this. And then he's playing the secondary character, Fallon. But because he's under prosthetics, and they always show his face, but never a lot of it.
Totally, yeah.
So I remember first time round, it was kind of like, what? When the reveal happens?
Totally. But then
second time around, because all
I
I remembered about this film was that Christian Bale had a twin.
Right.
That is the only thing spoiler alert.
But still.
That is the only thing I remembered. So the whole time I was watching, as soon as Fallon popped up, I was like, it's fucking Christian
You're
Bale.
looking for, what Borden looks like.
And I was like, how did I not
see that coming? Yeah.
But the good thing was I had forgotten literally
everything else.
So when the second kind of twist happens regarding Hugh Jackman, I was like, fuck, that's right.
Which is kind of dark.
Yeah.
That's a dark fucking little twist.
And then the whole movie is kind of like, you're thinking Christian Bale's the villain. Nah.
No. The whole time.
Hugh Jackman's the fucking villain.
I know, which is fucking great. And because I love seeing Hugh Jackman play a bad guy.
Love it.
Love to see him playing a bad guy. But what I do love is that this movie, the opening title card foreshadows a lot.
Yeah.
With all the hats on the ground. You're like, oh, wow, that's just a cool aesthetic. But you're like, where did all those hats come from?
Right.
And you will find out later on in the film. But it's kind of fun. I like the way... I like the way Nolan sets up these two characters. And it's that first magic trick where they are pulled from the audience and they're, you know, helping out the Piper Parabo skit of the disappearing lady, blah, blah, blah.
And when I first watched it, I mean, this time round, because obviously I've forgotten everything, I forgot. I was like, in my mind thought that Christian Bale and Hugh Jackman, this is how they met. No. When the movie starts, they're already a formed duo.
Yes. They're doing a bit from the audience.
Yeah. Hugh Jackman's character is married to Piper Parabo.
Because he kisses her on the leg and the audience laughs, and then Michael Caine berates him for it after. Like, they're going to think how you feel that they're going to get the trick right.
I failed the trick. I failed you. I failed you.
How you going to do? How you going to lift that? Do all them bloody push-ups. Anyway. Another great impression to add to the list.
I failed you, sir. I failed you.
I failed you, Master Wayne. Anyway, the Italian job. If we have to do this, we have to become the Italian job. I feel like I'm about to like shake myself out of existence doing that because I've got this like weird Saint Bernard thing I have to do with Michael Caine. Anyway, he's married to Piper Parabo.
He's married to Piper Parabo, who, if you remember the movie Coyote Ugly.
Cheaper by the dozen. 1 and 2.
Looper.
She is in Looper.
She is in Looper.
Former movie of the podcast. Go back to our Glass Onion episode.
Yes.
So there's a little group together with all of them that love doing little illusion tricks, which are basically like devil magic back in the day. In the 1890s, everyone's like, well, you're doing the work of the devil.
How do you disappear when there's
Christian Bale just does like a trick with the ball and then
everyone's like, basically.
Which makes this movie far more exciting. But it's great because again, Nolan fucks with like the non-linear treatment because a few scenes later, Bale's in prison.
Yeah.
And you're like, how the fuck did this happen?
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So basically the linear story is that Christian Bale and Hugh Jackman then basically branch off to do their own thing when Piper Parabo dies.
So yeah, the whole thing, because they're trying to constantly even together, one up each other, is that there's talk about a certain knot they tie when they put her in the tank, the water tank.
So basically as volunteers, they like tie a knot around her ankles and her wrists.
And they have to tie a certain knot that she can get out of. They tie it in a certain way.
They put her in, like dunk her in a thing of water, lock her in, and the trick is that they cover it, and then all of a sudden
she won't be there when
she comes out. And the whole thing is that it's because the knots that they tie she's able to get out of them.
But there's a more intricate knot that Bale puts forward that talks to Jackman more so that Jackman believes is the reason. Yeah. Because he asks, like, what knot did you tie? And he's like, I don't remember. Yeah.
So then on one particular night, she is unable to be untied. Michael Caine rushes the stage and sort of starts smashing.
That's a horrifying scene as well.
She's like, because it's one of those things where you're like, oh, she's struggling. Like, is it part of the act sort of thing?
But it goes on just too long. Like, but they know. Like, they know.
Hugh Jackman and Christian Bale, like, okay, we know this.
She should be out by this point.
It made me think of one of the most horrifying stories from a film.
Right.
This is just a quick
please.
segue.
Yeah,
and but Olivia Wilde is part of it. So So she did So she did a film called Touristas.
Okay.
With Josh Duhamel and Melissa George.
Okay.
Great horror movie.
Right.
So basically they're a bunch of like Americans that they go to Brazil. Mm-hmm. I mean, Brazil didn't like it because it basically treated it as if like they were like hostile.
All Brazilians are out to kill people.
So they go to Brazil and people like they get drugged, get taken away, get their organs harvested, all that sort of shit.
Right.
But there's one scene towards the end when the people that have survived everything, which is at this point Josh Duhamel, Melissa George, and Olivia Wilde, are swimming in like these caves, and they're told like, to get the little like air pockets.
Right. Oh, like
when you go up and you
out straight.
And they were like, so obviously they're in these really deep caved waters. They've got like cameramen and stuff, but Olivia Wilde couldn't find the air pocket.
Oh God.
So then she was legitimately like, help me.
Like as an actress.
But then the camera people were like,
is she acting?
She's just acting. So then eventually she had to like swim to like the camera person who obviously knew the way to get up. But I was like, that's horrifying to think that in like a setting that you're meant to feel safe
in. Yeah.
So I was like,
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it just made me like every time I've watched that film, I'm watching that scene going, there's so much fucking panic in like, great movie though.
Die for the art.
Yeah.
But that's how Piper Perabo dies in The Prestige, and it's horrifying to watch. But then obviously being Hugh Jackman's wife, he's jaded by it, he's distraught. Bale does feel guilty about it because he kind of goes, I don't remember what not I type, like I don't, you know. And
But it basically separates the two.
It separates the two. Bale has to go to trial in which they have to deem whether the trick or not was dangerous enough to convict him with manslaughter, basically.
He's let off in that regard.
Yes.
Which only upsets Hugh Jackman more.
Even more.
And then it sort of brings about that they are now...
Because he then comes back to find Hugh Jackman's got a big show.
Yeah.
And he's trying to pull off this incredible trick called the Transporting Man. Or he's got a trick called the Transporting Man.
And he's trying to figure out how to do it. And then he sees Christian Bale's show.
Yes.
And realizes Christian Bale has mastered the Transporting Man.
Yes.
But
in a very more like Hugh Jackman's doing these giant stage shows and he's got all that electricity now. I'm like, what the fuck's going on there? Whereas like Christian Bale's done it in this like dingy pub sort of thing somewhere.
Yeah.
And then Hugh Jackman's like, what the fuck?
But the whole thing is like Christian Bale will open a door that leads nowhere, throws a ball across the stage, closes the door, and then opens the door on the other side and catches it.
Which is cooler already.
Cool. And it's like, wow, heck, like how are they doing this?
So it becomes basically a battle between the two of like trying to figure out how each is doing their trick because they can't figure it out.
Yeah.
Which there's a fun scene earlier on when they're both watching someone else's magic show and they figure out the trick together and they just both have a nice moment with each other as well. So
so obviously like going to the spoiler that I mentioned before, we find out that Christian Bale has a twin brother.
Yep.
But what's really fucked up is that nobody knows about it.
Literally no one.
So he's played off as, so they put mustache, hair, little like balls in their cheeks. And he's played off as this guy called Fallon, who's like his little offsider.
Yeah.
And then.
So good.
And then one of the things that's really great on a rewatch, I remember thinking about it when it's revealed that Christian Bale has a twin.
Has a twin,
is that Rebecca Hall plays
Which
his wife.
I will say, by the way, is very late into the... It's almost like the closing scenes of...
And like Christian Bale is married to Rebecca Hall.
Yes.
And all throughout the film, she sort of says...
She has these comments.
Yeah.
Where,
because she's like... There are moments when she says like, do you love me?
Yeah.
And he says, I love you. And she's like, no, you don't. Today you don't. And you sort of think it's just like a kind of like...
There's just a relationship rift, right?
Where some days it's like, oh, you don't love me today. It's the way you say it. And then other days...
But in retrospect...
Then in other days he says it and she's like, I believe you.
Yeah.
But you realize...
That's well done.
You realize, so one Christian Bale has married Rebecca Hall.
Yeah.
And the other Christian Bale
has fallen in love.
Has a daughter.
Oh, yeah, that too. Yeah, fuck, I forgot about that.
But it's a case of like... The daughter is still Rebecca Hall's
daughter,
but she hasn't. It's not the
I know.
The different
it's different father.
It's fucked. But then the other Christian Bale that isn't married to Rebecca Hall has fallen in love with Scarlett Johansson,
who has been sent by Hugh Jackman as a spy to figure out the Transporting Man trick. So she was new Piper Perabo.
Yeah. So she's Hugh Jackman's assistant. They sort of have like a light relationship.
Yeah, she's a bit more... Yeah. She's not a fan of him, but it's work. But she falls for Christian Bale.
Yeah, he says, I want you to go to him and...
Figure out his
secret. And then she goes to him. And then one of the great things is like, you're also not entirely sure where she lies. Because you're like, maybe she does like Hugh Jackman and she's genuinely...
But then early on, she's like... Oh, I want to give you all of Hugh Jackman's secrets. So you're like, her allegiance is uncertain at any point in time. So.
But it's like, it's just one of those things where it's really quite like heartbreaking that Rebecca Hall is married to a man and has a daughter, and essentially those are two different people.
Two different people. Like one loves her and the daughter, and one does. Yeah,
and yet they both just happily swap. Like
because like it's his obsession, right? To kind of like defeat Hugh Jackman at this point, right?
And then one of like
not even to defeat, but just to become the greatest illusionist
But I think
alive.
one of the really great things that, and it's because of the non-linear thing, is obviously towards the beginning of the film when we know that Hugh Jackman has mastered this trick. And he goes down his trapdoor and falls into the thing of water. And it's closed. And you're under the assumption that Christian Bale has planted that there to kill him.
Because we will say before we go to that. So ultimately we figure out how Bale does the transporting
so the transportation is that
he's got a twin.
He's got his twin. And because out of makeup, they look
identical
exactly
twins.
The same.
To the point where as well, because that one of Bale's tricks that he tries to do earlier in the film is the shooting the blank in the gun, right?
Yeah.
Which Hugh Jackman comes in because he figures out he's like Bale's out of prison now, and obviously he's like disheveled beard Hugh Jackman.
Yeah.
And he puts a real bullet in there and shoots 2 fingers off Christian Bale's character, which then in the montage is revealed that the twin then has to have his fingers
cut off because he's like, we need it to look.
That
identical.
scene's brutal because it's literally he gets him to hold his hand there and he swigs the whiskey,
holds the thing down, and just has that. It's not even a knife.
It's a chisel.
And
he just hammers the chisel. It's fucked. But that's how Bale does it.
Yeah.
So
and then Hugh Jackman initially manages to find a double, like a guy that looks like him.
Kind of looks like him, which is again played by Hugh Jackman.
Just with like
shittier teeth. Sorry, British teeth. No, come on.
So he uses him initially, but then that other Hugh Jackman is like, well, I know how much you need me, so I think I'm going to get more money out of this.
Yeah, totally.
So then he's like, oh, fuck it. He's like, until I figure out how a different way, we just pay him.
But then seeds are planted early on.
Yeah.
Because Hugh Jackman goes and stays at this hotel because he hears about this man who's doing these experiments.
Who happens to be called Tesla.
We never hear the first name, but he is called Tesla.
It's Tesla.
It's Nikola Tesla.
Yeah, like the car dude.
Played. It's Elon Musk. Elon Musk rocks up. And he's like, hello, Hugh Jackman. Well, I'm actually developing a really cool bird app right now.
He's so weird.
He's so fucking weird. But no, it's Nikola Tesla, who's played by David Bowie.
David Bowie.
And he's doing these grand experiments with electricity. And that first scene where he walks in with Andy Serkis and he's like apprehensive to do it. And he's like, well, no, the currents are actually just made to come out. It won't actually electrocute you. It's all for show.
Yeah.
But you find out that Tesla has been able to find out a way to clone. He's been working on hats and cats.
Yeah.
He's been able to clone.
Which then makes you realize all of those hats, you're like,
because that's his thing is that he can clone them, but they end up somewhere else. And that's where they've all landed. So
then Hugh Jackman, and this is again, this is revealed like later, much later in the film. But Hugh Jackman steps into it, and another Hugh Jackman
appears far away,
and he's like, "What?" And then he just shoots him because he's like, "Shit."
That's too much initially. Like when he first discovers the cloning, he's like, this is, I don't know what to make of this. Like, it is better if this clone is dead.
But then it's one of those things where he's like, okay,
well,
I can clone and I can easily get rid of my clone by dropping him into the water.
Tank of water.
So then you realize Hugh Jackman has been
kind of fucked up for him too, where he's like, that's how my wife died?
Yeah. But then you realize Hugh Jackman is purposely murdering his clones.
Yeah.
So that means that the Hugh Jackman you see fall at the beginning is a clone. But the whole film has constructed you that Christian Bale has done this on purpose.
To kill Hugh Jackman.
So then when Hugh Jackman's dead, you're like,
what the fuck is happening?
Then Hugh Jackman appears.
So that's at the end there, because when that shot at the beginning is revealed, when Christian Bale walks up and he sees Hugh Jackman drowning, you're like, what the fuck? But then the shot then goes, Hugh Jackman is like, oh shit, you're not supposed to be here.
Yeah, so then in jail, Christian Bale is like,
oh man,
like has his daughter visit him, and that's his daughter.
And you can tell by the way he actually hugs her, consoles her and hugs her. Yeah,
and then he's under the impression that he's like, oh, I'm going to be hanged. Like I'm going to be hanged for this.
Oh man.
Then sees Hugh Jackman and is like, you're fucking dead.
Yeah.
And he's like, why am I in jail for murdering you?
Fucked,
so then that sets him off on being like, I need to expose you. He then gets hanged, but because it's like, I have a twin.
Yes.
So one of the twins like sacrifices themselves.
So fucked.
And then
it's the one who has the daughter.
And then Christian Bale is out, and Christian Bale is then out there being like, I need to expose you.
Yeah.
And then, so it's like this whole time, Hugh Jackman has been like the
villain, the
villain.
overarching villain of the film. It's incredible. But like, it's one of the, I will say this about The Prestige. It is probably his most convoluted movie.
Absolutely.
So
it's one of those like convoluted, and it's like everything's, that's a very easy coincidence. Like it's coincidental.
Totally.
It uses that a lot.
I can see why initially people would be a little bit apprehensive to be like, oh, okay, like that was not that good. Like,
yeah.
It is really good.
Yeah.
And it is really well put together.
And maybe if it wasn't a Christopher Nolan film, it might get a lot more.
Actually,
like,
no, it's a
praise,
good point, actually.
Because
yeah,
it's
totally.
like, oh my God, this is but I think it's because we've seen what Chris... at this point, he's had Memento, he's had Insomnia, and he's had Batman Begins.
Which I will go on record saying is my favorite Batman movie.
Right. But then it's a case of like, he has Prestige, but then it's like The Dark Knight just then sets him on this whole
Totally.
other
The
path.
Dark Knight is
it's almost like pre-Dark Knight and post-Dark Knight. You can see a difference in his films.
Well, that's it. That's when you make $2 billion movies, basically in a row. Because did he have something between?
No, I think he did Dark Knight and then he went
Dark Knight Rises after that, right?
Which was like 4 years
apart.
Later. Yeah.
So yeah, it's one of those ones.
And
of course, no, he had Inception in between them.
Oh my God, of course.
So
he did.
$1 billion movies, right?
So he had Dark Knight 2008, Inception 2010, Dark Knight Rises 2012, Interstellar 2014
or 15, sorry,
15, and then
Dunkirk 2018,
18, and then
Tenet 2020,
21,
and now 2023. Oppenheimer.
Oppenheimer.
But yeah, it's one of those ones where the reveal is actually very satisfying.
Yeah.
Like it is a very satisfying reveal. It is dark. It is morbid, which, I mean, we look at Memento, we look at Insomnia, we look at The Prestige.
It makes perfect
They all
sense.
have very morbid themes and elements to them. So, but I like all the little illusion things throughout the film. So like I was talking about the ball trick that he does in prison, which is funny because he does this disappearing ball trick and drops the ball and everyone laughs. And as he stumbles to pick the ball up, you realize that he's handcuffed the prison guard to the chair. So he's a master of illusion. The gun trick is great. You know what? Obviously do the disappearing bird. The creation of like the bird cage.
I will say though, the bird when Christian Bale, it's horrific.
Oh God, yeah. If you don't like watching birds get killed, maybe skip that scene. But
I mean, thankfully you don't actually see the bird.
See it, but it's
just the noise.
There's a squelch.
And it's also the woman's hands get fucked.
Bloodied and feathered and shit.
Anyway.
Yeah.
I will say, like obviously Christian Bale, Hugh Jackman, Michael Caine, all amazing.
Yep.
Scarlett Johansson, it's fine. She's fine.
And we actually discussed this earlier. This is pre-Iron Man 2.
This is pre-Iron Man 2. So she's like, at this point, she's had like Lost in Translation, which I think is when everyone really started to take notice of her.
Yes.
Because she was in like Home Alone 3. And she was in...
Oh my God, I didn't even realize she was in Home Alone 3.
And she was in this really terrible B-grade, not even B-grade, creature feature called Eight-Legged Freaks.
Oh, I remember Eight-Legged Freaks.
David Arquette.
I don't remember her in it. I haven't seen it in so long.
She's the daughter in that. So up to this point, it's like Scarlett Johansson's career as a teen actress has been like, all right,
fine.
Then had Lost in Translation, and it was like, Scarlett Johansson?
Yeah.
Who's Scarlett
That's
Johansson?
that breakout dramatic role, right?
And then I know that between that and this, there was a few things. Like, I'm just trying to think what she did. Did she do one of the Woody Allen, like Match Point or something?
She did do Match Point.
But I don't know if that was...
I don't know if that was before or after though, yeah.
And then like there was like the girl with the pearl earring. I don't know what year that was.
I forgot about,
but I know that there was like around the Prestige was when I feel like things sort of started.
That was her like real big sort of,
Oh, so Scoop, that's what I meant. Oh, The Island, Match Point. Yeah.
Nanny Diaries.
In Good Company.
Yeah.
So yeah, she was definitely starting to like
SpongeBob SquarePants
go
movie.
with pearl
Love
earring.
Song for Bobby Long.
Yeah,
it's a good movie.
So she was definitely starting to like really get more and more.
Yeah,
roles. And like she's fine in this film.
Definitely like an underwritten character.
I think that's the thing. It's like the character isn't great. It's
and
like
it's
she's there
really...
she's just there to serve like exposition more than anything.
Totally. And at the same time, it's almost like a character that probably maybe wasn't needed as well, because it's stuff
Yeah.
that could have been revealed. But I guess it's a way for information to be passed between
without it,
Jackman and Bale and
like
stuff.
I said to Nick, I was like, it's almost like a role that like Keira Knightley would have been up for. I think just because Scarlett Johansson is British, is British in the film.
Yes.
And she's purely there for like, look, she's purely there for her aesthetics.
Yeah,
and she's
got you.
like Scarlett Johansson. Scarlett Johansson is beautiful.
She's stunning.
Stunning.
But yeah, no, I absolutely agree. But
I also like her, like it's to show you how great that film is. In the case of Scarlett Johansson, doesn't give a bad performance.
No,
it's just her character's very underwritten,
as opposed to Rebecca Hall, which I know there's like sometimes scrutiny with Nolan and how he writes female characters, but I think Rebecca Hall is one of the stronger ones he's.
Oh,
written.
absolutely.
And Rebecca Hall is just fucking brilliant in the film. She is great, and it's those scenes where she's like, "Today you don't love me," Like it's never a snarky,
and then
it's never a snarkily like bitchy written thing. It's like she knows something's up,
but
and
she just doesn't know what.
Exactly. It's not her fault.
And you'd never be like, oh, my husband's got a twin. Like you'd never think that.
No,
but then also then ultimately her fate as a character is
horrible,
awful.
Right? Yeah. This is a fucking morbid little film.
I was like, great. He doesn't do happy, but that's okay.
No, well, I mean, that's what we wanted out of this.
We wouldn't want it anyway.
I'm just curious now, just since we spoke about budget in the last few, $40 million budget, $109 million gross worldwide. So fuck, Nolan knows bang.
Yeah.
Nolan gets it.
He gets it.
He understands cinema. But then you look at Batman Begins, huge.
Dark Knight,
$1 billion movie.
Insane.
Dark Knight Rises, $1 billion movie. Inception didn't make $1 billion though, did it? I don't believe so.
I reckn it was like around the 800 million mark. I reckon
it would have been close. $870 million.
There you go.
And then Interstellar, Dunkirk, all box office successes,
massive successes, and like
Tenet comparative.
This whole thing where it's like, I was like, we got to remember when Tenet opened.
Totally,
Tenet made fucking so much money for a movie that opened during the pandemic,
like literally during it.
Right, like let's just
300
was it 2020?
Yeah, it was 2020. Yeah, so $365 million on a $205 million budget.
Yes, that's comparatively that's not like a success.
$365 million
in a pandemic. This is 2020. Like this is 2020.
So consider this: America literally just closed down during 2020. Still made $9.3 million opening
weekend. That's huge.
Where not even like you couldn't even have full cinemas.
Yeah,
like. Shit's mental, man. So Nolan does bank.
Yeah.
So I'm very intrigued as we segue out of these movies to see how Oppenheimer does, right? Because Oppenheimer, to me, as excited as I am for it, I think people should sort of temper expectations based on its box office.
Yeah.
Now, not in a way that I think that's going to reflect the quality of the film, because like I said, I'm fucking keen for Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
But it is a character-driven drama. Sure, there's a lot of like talk about how he's recreated the atomic bomb using practical effects and stuff. And I'm sure there's going to be really great set pieces in regards to giant fuck-off explosions in this movie.
Yeah.
But I think people need to remember, or at least with their expectations, realize that this is going to be a 3-hour character drama about the guilt a man felt about creating a device that could have ended the world.
Yeah.
That's what the movie's about. There's not these hectic action scenes.
Yeah.
It's not a mindfuck sci-fi movie. This is going to be about a man facing his demons.
And also, it's opening opposite Barbie.
$100 million budget.
Okay.
Reasonable. I said 300 to you earlier. I don't know where I got that from.
So $100 million budget is reasonable. You know what? That means there's every possibility that movie becomes a viable like success.
Absolutely.
But it's opening opposite Barbie. And if you've gone outside, you know that Barbie is coming. Barbie
if you woke up this morning, you know Barbie is coming.
Barbie is on buses. Barbie is literally every single product you can think of has a collaboration with
My social media feed, all of them, Instagram, Twitter, Threads, Facebook, it's Barbie.
And you know what?
Put a shrimp on the Barbie.
And I love it.
Oh, same. I'm very excited for Barbie.
I'm more excited for Barbie than I am for Oppenheimer.
See, I'm more excited for Oppenheimer, but I think as well, because I'm excited to see...
Probably the gayest and straightest thing we've ever seen.
Oh, very much so. We have very much... Sorry. I'm sorry if we were ambiguous to you guys before. But just remember, Peter's the gay one and I'm the straight one.
Right.
No matter how
I know.
flamboyant I get.
Every now and then, you never know.
You never know.
You never
Pete
know.
said some fucking straight things.
And Nick
I've
has said some really gay shit.
stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm still I'm excited for Barbie because I think it's like,
There it is.
to me, so gay. I think it is an event more than anything. Like,
Yeah.
regardless of like how the movie is. And the only thing I'm concerned about is that the embargo lifts very close to the release.
Which is weird because there are already reviews up on Rotten Tomatoes.
For Barbie.
Yeah.
Oh.
I think so.
Yuck. No, that was a fake screenshot.
Oh,
I
was
saw
it?
That. It was a fake screenshot. No,
right.
last I checked, there was no reviews for Barbie.
Okay.
I know the screenshot you're talking about, the 100%.
Yeah, where it said like 54 reviews.
It was screen. Yeah, it was. It was.
Bastards.
You got fucking.
I got
deep fakes.
Yeah,
Is that how you got Barbie?
I got Barbied.
So I still think I'm still excited for Barbie. It's going to be an event
But
movie.
Oppenheimer is
also has a really close embargo
Yeah.
lift. So we will be seeing both movies before the embargo lifts.
Yeah, so we're seeing Barbie on Monday the 17th, and we are seeing Oppenheimer on Tuesday the 18th.
18th. So, but I like
At
that.
the best cinema in Brisbane.
I know we get a Dolby Atmos, baby. Big old reclining seats. Ooh. That's what I say when I recline every time. Ooh. I am more excited for Oppenheimer, literally just based on the fact that to me is more so the type of movie I'm excited for.
Right.
This psychological drama about. No, I'm not saying you don't like psychological dramas, Pete, but I feel like everything is in your court to love Barbie. It's Margot. It's Ryan. It's got a banging soundtrack.
Yeah.
The pink vinyl that you were talking about. Like,
Yeah,
I feel like this.
Yeah, I'm getting
this screams more Peter Gray.
Yes, I am.
Not Peter Gay. Peter Gray.
I am buying the hot pink vinyl, and I got
you bought a shirt.
and I bought a shirt that says
Directed by
and I
Greta
got
Gerwig.
sent a fucking pink convertible.
Has anyone owned up to that yet?
No, I have no
I think you got
idea.
a stalker.
I'm okay with it if they want to send me more shit.
Send more shit. And also start sending me stuff as well.
I was like, I literally have this giant pink
Metal
convertible.
Barbie.
It's really fucking pretty.
Wow.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Next thing, Tom Cruise is going to send you a dirt bike after you guys fucking high-fived about physical media.
Oh yeah, we haven't spoken about that. I
we haven't.
I met
Go
Tom
on.
Cruise.
You
Hey.
just meet
I just
Tom
didn't
Cruise.
meet Tom Cruise. All right, I had a moment with Tom Cruise.
That's
I had a
fucking great.
I told him, I was like, I'm a baby of the 80s. I'm a child of the 90s. I was like, cinema is what I know, what I love. I was like, stream.
that's such a smooth line.
And I was like, streaming can fuck off. And I did this hand gesture and he was like, I love it. And like, he put his hand up and me not even like it
instinctual.
but in the video, it doesn't even look like I'm like shocked by it. I'm just like, yep. And
that is the coolest shit.
He's amazing. Like, I understand why people are like,
He makes Scientology cool. No, please don't take that clip out of context. It's a joke.
I was going to say, there's a reason that he is like as respected as he is by media.
Yeah.
Because he takes his time with everybody. And I'm not someone, I never ask for photos. But everybody was asking photos, and I was like, I'm not going to pass this opportunity. And I was like, Mr. Cruise, can I?
That's the difference between you and me. I'm a photo whore.
Right.
I'm absolutely like, so after we interviewed Danny and Michael Philippou, I literally used the last 90 seconds of my interview to be like, can I get a photo with you boys? And then we just chatted casually.
In all the Mission Possible stuff.
Yeah.
So during the interviews beforehand, before I went into each interview and I had like 6 minutes with them, I was told, if you want to get a photo with the talent, they're like, you can, but
it's got to be but
it'll come out of your 6 minutes. And I was like, you know what? Nah.
Take the 6 minutes.
I'm going to take the 6 minutes. Because also, I had got great 6 minutes with all of them.
Well, I mean, who with, Pete?
Christopher McQuarrie.
What?
Simon Pegg.
Holy shit.
Paul Clementieff.
What?
Haley Atwell, who I'm just a little bit in love with now.
I get it, though.
And then met Tom Cruise on the red carpet, got a photo with him, called him.
Questions with him too?
Shook his hand, called him Mr. Cruise, looked him dead in the eye. He's incredible. I love you, Mr. Cruise.
Very fucking cool.
And also Mission Impossible, fucking amazing movie.
Loved it. Well, we should also say in regards to linking it with Oppenheimer is that we've had now posts come out from both Tom Cruise, Christopher McQuarrie, Greta Gerwig, and Margot Robbie, all talking about going to see Mission Impossible, Indiana Jones, Barbie, Oppenheimer. Like, They are all, and
They're
I've
all-
seen interview clips with Cillian Murphy,
They're
with
all
Christopher Nolan.
championing each other's films. And I was like, this is like,
But they've all said the same thing. They're like, and Nolan, I think, put it best today, is when he was like,
it's a win for
it's
cinema.
a win for everyone
Yeah.
because you are just going to the movies. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter if you have to pick one to see, there is still an option for you to go see
like
one.
he's not saying don't go see Barbie, go see Oppenheimer. He's not saying obviously he'd prefer that.
Totally. Well,
But
I should also just a quick interject there. AMC just released recently that their AMC stubs or A-list holders,
right.
20,000 of their
have
members
bought
for Barbie
both
and Oppenheimer on the same
same
day,
day.
on opening day. Like
Yeah.
this is like, for me, the hype leading up to these two movies is like something I haven't experienced since probably Avengers Endgame.
And this is also
this is for two movies, technically like no Barbie's an
Non-IP,
IP, but like
but
not
yeah.
a franchise, right?
and also we're still like we're not in the pandemic
No,
anymore.
totally, but
But,
it's
we're still in
there are
this
still
time-
people who don't want to go to
still
the
in
cinema.
this time where it's like where streaming still unfortunately has this
Totally.
fucking hold over everybody.
There's no urgency to go to
No,
the cinema
but-
like there was.
But you have these two movies because obviously the last few weeks we've seen really big films not perform particularly well.
and probably for good reason, I would say.
Right.
Indiana Jones,
Indiana
the Dial of Destiny,
Jones hasn't underperformed
on
The
a massive
The
budget.
Flash,
That's where I got the $300 million.
Right.
$300 million
The Flash has
movie.
The Flash is going to lose Warner Brothers like $200 million.
A lot of cash, which
sucks.
I'm going to controversially say they put a lot of that marketing money into things that probably was a fucking waste of time. And I won't say what. I'm just going to, it rhymes with schminchfluencer schmeanings. Okay? Just putting that out.
Right. Yeah. They gave the Flash too much lead
Lead up.
up.
Showing it, I would say showing it to too many people across around the
Yeah.
world.
Which obviously, yes, it
weeks
got
leading up to
obviously,
it.
yes, it built like
Word of mouth.
It kept building word of
But
mouth.
the people who were going to pay for tickets opening day
would have gone to
went and
those
saw it
screenings
for free.
Yeah.
So you already lost money
Yeah.
from them. So
Yeah. And then
I
it
think
also
it was. I don't think that was a good
yeah,
marketing.
and
move,
it also
just
does
putting it out
and
there.
it doesn't help that they cancelled Batgirl, which was
Doesn't help that
cheaper.
they cancelled Batgirl. Also, I'm just gonna say, like, Flash is good. It's not great. So, like, you know, I expected it to definitely make more money than it did. But I wasn't expecting it to make a shitload of cash.
Right.
Makes me less inclined to think Blue Beetle's gonna do well.
Well, we've got Blue Beetle, and then we've got Aquaman 2, and
Well,
now
maybe.
and now we're just like we have no idea where.
We-
So Blue Beetle apparently is the start of the next line.
Well, James Gunn has come out and
Yeah.
now clarified that and saying
Right.
he's the first character in the new DCU.
Right.
But he's not necessarily. This isn't necessarily the
Part
first
of-
movie
right.
in the DC. So I don't know what's going on, man. I'm
Yeah.
so confused. But you know what I'm not confused about?
Oppenheimer and Barbie.
Oppenheimer, Barbie. How fucking good Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part One
so
was.
good.
It is a great summer film, and
Even though we're not in summer here, but
it's
you
the-
are in summer
it's
in
the
the.
summer blockbusters.
But you are in the summer in the United States of America.
Even though I'm wearing a t-shirt in the middle of winter. So
Right. Yeah,
I'm
I look more-
excited I'm excited to go to the movies. But then also outside of that, like
You're
we said,
excited. You should feel these nipples.
outside of that, talk to me. Fucking brilliant movie, and it's
Right.
coming out in July. Go
Yes.
see that as well. Like there
July
are so many
is
cool
it's
movies.
it's a good month.
She's a stacked month. You know what, Pete? We have never done this before.
What,
Let's see
haven't
what's
we?
coming out in July. Let's do a little preview
let's
of
do
July.
that,
'Cause
shall
we got
we?
time. Because somehow in the fucking Nolan episode we
We've
wrapped
done
up
an
real
hour
early.
43,
But I
right.
feel like we got our thoughts out quite well. Just
Coming
a little bit
soon.
of
Barbie.
Oppenheimer.
Sisu.
Oh, Sisu's getting Australian release.
Go see Sisu.
90 minutes, action-packed.
Killing Nazis.
That's all you need. And
That's all you need to know.
literally, like, it's 1,001 ways to kill a Nazi.
Right.
It's a fucking
Talk to me.
brilliant film. Talk to me, brilliant. Look, Meg 2.
August.
I'm kind of having, let's just, you know.
because that's what we got to talk about.
Oh, yeah. Well, what a fun little segue that was. Why don't you introduce to us, Pete, then maybe as we leave July and head into August, what our August episode of the monthly movie marathon would be.
So we're saying goodbye to July with
Bye, July.
with Oppenheimer, going out with a bang. Ooh, awful. But
I feel so sorry for new listeners. Like if someone's come in to be like, wow, these boys are going to break down Nolan's
so-
film.
yeah.
And we're just like, bang.
and they're like, the film did this and that. And then someone would be like, why did you recommend me these two? Like, they're awful. I was like, hey, you sucked in now, though, because you'll watch the next episode. Why?
Because-
Why will you watch the next episode? Because we're talking about motherfucking sharks.
I just wasn't expecting that. That's great.
That is what we are talking about. Shark films. Giant fuck off shark films
because
eating people, because on August 3rd, Meg 2, The Trench.
Jason Statham, Megalodons, Ben Wheatley directing.
And if you
choice.
If you want to know why that's interesting, Ben Wheatley has made not mainstream shark
This
movies.
is his first like Hollywood movie.
So this
really.
is the dude that made Kill List,
High Rise,
and
Into the Earth,
Free
Fire.
Free Fire.
Free Fire as well.
Yeah, he's made some weird movies.
He loves weird movies. Some that I like.
Have you seen Kill
Dude,
List?
Kill List is awesome.
Or the Hammer part?
The Hammer scene is fucked, but the ending of that film still fucks with me to this day.
Yeah.
Kill List is great.
Kill List fucks.
Which now makes me kind of go like, should we have done Ben Wheatley movies? But we're not, because that's a weird episode.
No.
But I might rewatch Kill List.
Maybe. But
we are for the Meg 2.
We are talking about the Meg 2.
Motherfucking
shark movies. And so obviously we're going to rewatch The Meg. Which I have not seen since
I have not seen since cinemas.
Because I remember leaving it going,
Oh, and I did the same, but I think I'm going to watch it again with a little bit more of a loving lens. I also remember that the preview screening I went to, not the media screening, but the preview screening I went to, I may have been a couple of beers deep.
I feel like that would have been better.
I can't remember. So that's probably why. So I do need to rewatch The Meg.
But yeah, so we are watching The Meg, and we have both chosen a shark film.
Yes.
Now, obviously, you can go with a classic like Jaws.
You could.
A movie like The Meg, it doesn't need that sort of...
No.
It doesn't need that like sort of
Let's
serious...
just say it's not it's a chalk and cheese sort of thing.
So we're going with sort of really
more fun shark movies.
And there are a lot of them out there.
Heaps of them. So what did you pick, Peter Gray, as your shark movie for the motherfucking shark episode?
I can't remember. I think you chose...
Well, I chose one that I hadn't seen before.
Okay. So I chose... Because he hadn't seen this one, and I was shocked he hadn't seen it, but I'm fucking excited.
I'm excited too as well.
So there was a lot that I was tossing up. I was like 47 meters down.
Yep.
The Shallows.
Yep.
I was like, then you
47 meters down, uncaged.
So fucking awful.
I haven't seen it.
But then I was like, you know what? Movie kind of, I feel like blends well with The Meg. Sharknado.
I cannot fucking wait because Peter Gray, I have seen Sharknado.
You have.
I own Sharknado on Blu-ray. And I'm excited for you to see this movie.
Yeah. So I've seen like bits of it.
Yeah.
I haven't seen the whole thing from start to end. I'm excited. I was like, I have a really soft spot for Tara Reid.
Bless her.
I can't deny it.
Bless her.
So Sharknado. And what about you, Nicholas?
Well, I
know what he's watching, but those people don't.
Similar to you, Pete, I have seen not clips, but a very famous clip from this shark film.
Yes.
And you were very disappointed in the fact that I hadn't seen this movie already because it literally screams me.
It does.
Dumb fucking movie, dumb fucking boy. So for my motherfucking shark movie,
Which is all we're going to call it.
which is all we're going to call it. And for some reason, just randomly, I thought, I was like, it would be great if Michael Caine was in this movie.
But you know what?
But he's not.
But you know what Michael Caine is, what shark movie he is in?
Jaws the Revenge.
And he says he's never seen it. And he was like, the only reason he did it was because he needed to buy a new house.
You know, he's like, I've never seen the movie, but I saw the house that it bought me.
Fucking
I love that.
Bless you.
Jaws
How
Revenge.
fucking stupid is it that they made a
good's
Jaws
that?
movie where they're like, the shark remembers. And it's like, you killed all of my shark family, so I'm coming for you. It's so fucking dumb.
Fucking brilliant. So if they ever make a Jaws remake, you know we'll be doing that.
Yeah, for sure.
I have not seen, Peter Gray, Deep Blue Sea. So we will be doing Deep Blue Sea, we'll be doing Sharknado and the Meg.
And we may be incorporating a drinking game into it.
There's the skeleton of a drinking game in the works at the moment. I think that would be
maybe
a lot
now
of
every
fun.
time we just say motherfucker, we just
Which for Deep Blue Sea is starring the one and only motherfucker himself, Samuel L. Jackson.
and motherfucking LL fucking Cool J.
I'm so excited to watch this movie.
And you know what? He has a song for that movie, and it's called.
How good was the early 2000s?
And it's called Deepest Bluest. My head is like a shark fin. Right?
So
this is why the ladies love Cool James.
When you tune into next month's episode of the monthly movie marathon, you may not hear the theme music. You might actually fucking hear
Deepest Bluest. My head is like a shark's fin.
Oh, but that will be next month's episode. Thank you for listening to this one. We hope you go see Oppenheimer. We hope you go see Barbie, see Mission Impossible.
See Talk to Me.
See Talk to Me especially. But
and see Barbie again.
And see Barbie again. Now, all our socials are below, but Pete, where can everyone find you?
You can find me on the interwebs on Instagram and Twitter. At ratedpdg.
Stunning.
You can find me on the AU review with all of my reviews and my interviews. All my Mission Impossible interviews went out.
Barbie.
I have some Talk to Me things coming out. I may have a press conference for Barbie. Maybe. And when you're saying maybe means I do have a press conference for Barbie. And then obviously on Rotten Tomatoes, you can search for me, Peter Gray, Gray.
Gray with an A.
And Nick.
Yes.
Where can they find you?
nicksflicksfix, Instagram, Twitter, and Threads.
Oh yeah, I'm on Threads too.
I don't use it that much.
I don't use it that much, but hey.
nicksflicksfix, and then novastreamnetwork.com for all my written reviews, interviews. Go to Novastream's YouTube page. We've just put up the Danny and Michael Philippou interview for Talk to Me. Had a lot of fun with those guys. A little behind the scenes on that. I was very sick that day. I don't think I saw.
No,
I was very sick.
I knew you were.
I was not well, and due to that, my ear burst on the plane. I didn't tell you that either.
Oh no!
I just didn't want to say anything, but like my right ear. And
well, I wouldn't know because you flew. I didn't fly with you.
No, I flew on the way when we flew in.
Over.
Yeah.
Oh shit!
Because I tried to go and I burst my right ear and I couldn't hear out of it for the whole interview, and I was worried I was speaking very loud. But I think I pulled myself together enough for a reasonable interview.
And we'll also say it's kind of a bit sad. Because we had every intention of going to
TIFF this year. Yes.
And happily we both got accredited.
Approved, yes.
Sadly, due to I guess circumstances out of our control.
Yeah, there was just a bit of
it was so unfortunately
that we can't go now.
Aren't able to go.
Not this year.
But it means that we'll just have more time to save for next year.
Very true.
It really fucking sucks.
Yeah, it kind of because
it was a case of you get the email saying congratulations, you can go, and up until a few months ago it was like
we were basically kind of ready to go, and then
just
shit happens.
Yeah,
out of our control.
Life happens.
But we know we got accredited, which means we know next year we will get accredited as well. But sad that we can't go.
But it doesn't mean we'll trust us. We'll still be fucking covering.
Oh, there'll be shit going on. We're miffing. We're biffing. What else is coming up?
That's about it. I was just going to rhyme something and then it would have been like, what? Oh,
Hero finds Tiffin.
Oh, if there was if there was a South Queensland Film Festival, we'd be squiffing. I don't know.
And on that lovely note, bye.